Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classic / Non-Classic. This is episode number 1368 and Doubleshot number 1262. I have one Marvel trade, one DC trade. First one is the start of an era. Hawkman, Volume 1, Awakening. This collects the first 6 issues of the Hawkman Volume 5 volume. Now, at the time this was released, this was the first Hawkman ongoing series since 2013. This came out in 2018. They've been 5 years since the last one ended. Now, this is also the first one in a while I've reviewed for Hawkman because I did review Separate Hawkman, so I figured I'd want to review this series. And it's also the first Hawkman series released in a year. Since the previous year before this book came out, we had The Death of Hawkman, written by Mark Andrego. I think the artwork was done by Aaron Lepsey, I think the name of the artist is. This book is done by two really good creative team. As far as I know, this is the first and these two have ever worked together on a comic book. Now, when this comic was released 3 years ago, originally, because the book actually ended last year, I'll get to that in a minute. It was launched as part of the New Age of Heroes line. And the thing is, this is one of the two books actually lasts more than like 12, 13 issues. It probably by far was the most successful book under that line. Because it's Hawkman. People more familiar with Hawkman than, let's say, Damage or The Silencer. This simply book is simply, we have Hawkman revisiting his past life, which that's a very interesting concept. It's never really been explored very much for Hawkman, especially in present day. Like, we've had flashbacks of Hawkman doing some time traveling. Interesting. They set this up in issue 1 by having him talk to Madame Xanadu, of all people. Yes, Madame Xanadu. I mean, what is she? DC Universe version of Doctor Strange, where like every superhero has to go visit her? I would have thought that was Dr. Fate's job, but Dr. Fate's not really around very much, so Madame Xanadu. Okay, fine. So we see past versions of Hawkman, and I love this splash page. Even though the first issue goes by really quickly, it sets up a lot of stuff you would see in this run. Like, here you have the various Hawkmen. Like, you have you have here around the corner, that's the Hawk World Hawkman. Yeah, the one that Timothy Truman basically came up with. You have the classic World War II Hawkman, who was actually also kind of seen by looking at his attire. It's pre-Flashpoint Hawkman, which I think is really awesome. We also have down here, looks like we have a version from Krypton. Yes, there are many different versions of Hawkman. And this 2-page splash page is basically things to come. Though the first place he goes to, like in the very next issue, he does some time traveling. Okay, how does time traveling get to do with whatever object he has? First place he goes to is ancient Egypt, where he basically meets up one of his ancient Egypt ancestor, Khufu, which he tries to explain he's a descendant of his, well, reincarnation of his, because, well, Hawkman, one of the biggest things about the character is reincarnation. Being reincarnated so many times over the years, he would have lost count. As a matter of fact, the character Nighthawk, yes, Nighthawk, the one that DC has, the Western hero, yeah, they kind of confirm he is one of Hawkman's reincarnations. Yes, the Western superhero, Nighthawk. At the five that he mentions a name that, you know that name. What is that name? It's like he's actually familiar with it, but he doesn't know what it is. And then for the next 2 issues, he goes to Thanagar. Yes, he goes to Thanagar, the home of basically the Thanagarians, aka the Hawkmen, is what they called them in Justice League, just in the show Justice League. And he meets up with Carter Hall. Now, in case you're curious, though, has Carter Hall actually met Carter Hall before? The answer is yes. Yes, he has met before. The first time they actually had adventures together was actually back in the early 90s. Yes. As a matter of fact, the version of Hawkman you saw in the Hawkman Volume 4 series by Jeff Johns and James Robertson, Yeah, that was Carter Hall. That was Carter Hall using Carter Hall's body because he died and gave up his body for him for some reason. And apparently, Carter was not really a big fan of the black hair, or the fact it was long. He was not really a big fan of that. That is how Jeff Johns wrote it. Here, and here's the thing interesting about this book. Now, they also revealed that Carter Hall can basically, thanks to the emblem on his chest, he actually make his wings retract. Which, when Kadar sees, is like, really? Your wings can do that? I didn't know that. And he mentions about the particular name, and he's like, oh, you mean our great hero? I'm like, yeah. And they go by a statue, and Hawkman passes by. He sees the symbol, for his symbol anyway, smashes that, takes the object from it. And we also see Shayera Hall. Yes, the one from Hawkworld. Great to see her here. I mean, why not? And of course, well, also, you gotta think this is really cool. Look at this. You have, yep, Nighthawk, right there. The superhero, the West superhero Nighthawk. Yeah, but this is one thing I thought was really cool. Because they're on Thanagar, so why not have them basically face off against... Like, here's the end of issue 2, where he basically is face off against Hawkworld's Hawkman. Yes, anybody who's ever read that original miniseries Hawkworld by Timothy Truman, which is really good, by the way, I highly recommend checking it out. This is the very costume like that Timothy Truman designed. Now, why would I say Timothy Truman designed it? Because he wrote and drew all 3 issues. Oh, by the way, there's some mild references in here where he asks if he's Beowulf. Beowulf, if you don't know who this guy is, he's an old Hawkman villain from the original Navy back in the Silver Age of comics, who's associated with this version of Hawkman, and he was at one point an associate of Carter Hall before he became a drug dealer. Also, Beowulf he's a shapeshifter. Yep. And look, here's Sheriff Hall. Yes, the partner / lover of Carter Hall. Now, this version of Shayera, it's never hinted if these two ever got married or not. It's possible it could have been. Yeah, and then he goes back to present day, where then he has the Microverse running into Ray Palmer. No, I'm not going to say his line. It's his line from Cry for Justice is really dumb. Where it's like, I'm Ray Palmer, welcome to pain. That was something James Robinson wrote for Ray Palmer. Yep. And the last 2 issues are, simply put, just a reunion of Ray Palmer and Carter Hall. And they have a great team-up adventure with each other. And that's the thing. And still basically continuing Hawkman revisiting his past lives. As far as I can tell, he does this for the first year of the comic. But I gotta say, for the opening story or opening issues of this run, these are really good. I thoroughly enjoy these. Nothing really bad about this, but it's great to see the Hawkworld Hawkman again, because I like that era for Hawkman, because it's a good mix of, it's a good remix of basically, it's a good remake of Hawkman done in a sci-fi style. Well, mostly the late 1980s, which they continued this trend basically in the 1990s when John Ostrander joined Timothy Truman as the co-writer of the book with the 680 volume before it was relaunched as Hawkman Volume 3. Which that lasted for about the same amount of time as Hawkworld Volume 2, which lasted a little over 30 issues. The previous volume of Hawkman, not before Savage Hawkman, by the way, I get this book roughly 9.5 out. Yeah, the one that James Robinson started, that actually ended issue 49 because basically what the very next issue was retitled to be Hawk Girl with issue 50, and it got canceled 16 issues later due to low sales. Yep. This book, really good. My only slight problem with the book is its abrupt ending last year. Yes, as far as I know, there's really no reason for the book ending at all. I mean, the book was really good at the time of its cancellation. At least they wrapped up a story arc with the final issue. But I kind of felt this book had a lot more potential with it. Yes, Hawkman had a ton more potential. Plus, you gotta love this back cover. It's so good to see Hawkman fighting like a giant bird, which is basically nods like a Silver Age version of Hawkman. He would basically do this. He would fight giant monsters. That's basically what he did during the Silver Age, which I think is really good. It's like the Venditti basically takes aspects of the Silver Age Hawkman, plus other versions of Hawkman, like the one from like the post-crisis stuff, like a lot of those Hawkman that basically have all of his confusing timeline over the years, basically integrate a more fluid timeline. Venditti himself does a great job with it, and I do think that the redesigned Hawkman suit looks really good. Yes, because the pants themselves, look at the pants. They have a belt buckle, they have a belt on them, which the previous version of the pants didn't have a belt on them. Also, the wings look mostly the same. The helmet is basically a slight redesign. I put some lines on it, and same thing with his like chest armor thing. By the way, in the page of Savage Hawkman, he actually had a chest plate, which this is more like back to classic Hawkman, not New 52 Hawkman, classic Hawkman. Yep. All right, before I continue this one, let me go get something here. Sorry about that. Alright, moving on to Laura McKinley, Volume 2, X-Assassin. Yes, the book is called X-23. I still think this was a terrible idea. But Marvel wanted this for some reason. Yes, for the X-23 fourth volume, this contained issues 7 through 12, basically ending the volume. This just feels like a very random storyline. Like Laura just comes across a cybernetic clone of hers, and who's also an assassin, known as X-Assassin. Beast is in this book. Yes, Beast is here. And there's mostly some shenanigans with Weapon X program in here, but it's very minor at best. And it just feels like, when you read this, it feels like almost like a nothing storyline. And at one point, it looks like though Gabby and Laura have falling out, but they kind of make it at the very end. One thing that was interesting, though, looked like that Jonathan, their pet Wolverine they got in all the Wolverine. Apparently, this particular animal is aged, where it's kind of getting big. Yep. But this book is just okay at best. It's got good artwork, though. I have nothing against the writer who wrote this book, Mariko Tamaki. And of course, the artwork is done by Diego Gully, I think I pronounced it. Yes. Now, I still think that basically Laura losing the identity of Wolverine was an absolute terrible idea. Like taking this away from her after Tom Taylor basically developed her as Wolverine for 3 years, and then as soon as he leaves, you take away all that character development that he spent 3 years basically trying his damnedest to do, and you take that away and make her X-23 again just because her father is alive, which I think is quite stupid. Yeah. I like the first story arc of this book, which actually felt quite interesting. This one felt like something that basically Mariko just had to do because she felt like it, like an additional member of the family. Doesn't really go much anywhere. As a matter of fact, the X-Assassin character does not really appear outside of this. Nope. I'll give this book roughly an 8.5 out of 10. It's got good artwork, though. Final thoughts on this brief run for Laura McKinley as X-23. I think this was absolutely Mariko Matsumoto writing Laura. I didn't have anything against that. That was a good idea. My only problem is the title. Why in the world couldn't they just call this like, I don't know, Laura McKinley Wolverine? You could just kept the old Wolverine title. Heck, I don't think anybody would mind you hit the reset on Wolverine. Nope, you had to take away the identity of Wolverine from Laura after 3 years of character development just because her father is alive. Which, thank God, Hickman basically fixed this problem with his current one, how being referred to as Wolverine again, and actually wearing a damn mask, because this was an absolute terrible idea. I mean, the stories are fine. I have nothing against the stories. She could still do the stories if she was still Wolverine. And it wouldn't really affect much of anything. It just her being X-23 is a step backwards in character development. Yes. And Marvel wanted this so badly. They really wanted to basically take away the identity of Wolverine from her just so they could put her back being X-23. And it's not the only character they did it with. Oh no, not the only one. Yes. Who did they also did it with? They also did it with Sam Wilson, who was Captain America for about 3 years. And somebody at Marvel must not like that very much because that was something Rick Remender did. Because it seems as though as soon as he left, Marvel had been trying to undo a lot of the stuff basically he did. I mean, a lot of stuff he did for Marvel was really good. I mean, did he do any of the runs he did? No, not necessarily. It's just some things that he did. Apparently, some people at Marvel didn't like. Take, for example, Sam Wilson being Captain America. Apparently, no one liked that. Apparently, some people don't like that at all. This why the readers didn't have a problem with it. As far as I can tell, no one did. But basically, having forced to give him a shield because they can't have 2 Captain Americas. Or in the case of Laura, can't have 2 Wolverines, but yet it's okay to have 2 Spider-Men and 2 Hawkeyes. It's okay for that, but not 2 Wolverines. To me, this makes no frickin' sense at all. It's father and daughter using the same code name. Heck, I wouldn't mind if she called herself Lady Wolverine, just the difference between 2 of them. Just do frickin' something with it. Don't have her be back to be X-23. Just because her father got resurrected in Marvel Legacy. Which, by the way, they didn't do much with that even after he came back. I mean, what did he do when he came back? Not much. He basically popped up in other books and eventually got 2 miniseries basically deal with his return, actually explain his return. And of course, you have to hunt for Wolverine. And then led to stuff with Matthew Rosberg. I almost let it know that Marvel just... It seems that they want to do something with Wolverine, but they're very hesitant with it. I mean, what was so wrong with keeping Laura being Wolverine? What, do you think people have a problem with the female Wolverine? I highly doubt it, especially since All Wolverine was very popular. Yeah, I never heard anything negative about the book. I mean, my friend Edgar loves the book. I love the book too. And I thought the book was fantastic. Nothing really wrong with it at all. But this by far... was still a dumb idea. I never liked her being... Now, if you think of basically pre-Secret Wars, it was much of an issue. But this is post-Secret Wars. Her being Wolverine was a very good step for the character. It made a lot more sense for her being Wolverine than her brother, Daken. A heck of a lot more sense. Plus, it was good character development with her, and... Tom Taylor worked his butt off, basically developing this character as Wolverine, and then he left, he's gone. Let's basically make her X-23 again. It was like they just basically couldn't wait to undo all of that character development. 3 years of developing this character, 3 years as Wolverine, and you throw it away just so you can basically put her back as X-23. Though at least kept Gabby around. Even though, yes, the book did feel like a continuation of all the Wolverine. But why couldn't they just have her be Wolverine? It's by far a really dumb idea. It is by far one of the dumbest decisions Marvel's ever made in the last decade. And thank God she's Wolverine again, but God forbid we give her a solo book again. Yeah. So yeah, that's it for Cycler Review. So I do my other views today, which will be for One Piece. Boruto, Eden Zero. Yes, Eden Zero. First episode comes out today for that one. Newest chapter, let's see, it's basically One Piece, My Hero Academia, Boruto, Eden Zero, and Black Clover. So expect to see about 5 more videos today, okay? See you next video. Bye.